everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, Angela Grayson, your host for Truth to Power with Angie. I'm excited this evening to bring y'all some really good information. Thank y'all for joining us. Look, if you would, please go ahead and like and share this program tonight. It's going to be some good stuff. I'm looking forward to engaging y'all around the things that concern us the most. Truth to Power is a show that's all about the unapologetic voice for Black women right here in Jackson, Mississippi, and across the state of Mississippi. We want to tell the untold stories of Black women and provide commentary around news, current event, politics, pop culture, what's going on with your health, what's going on with your mental health, all those things that concern the Black woman. We know so many things concern us because Black women are not a monolith. We are coming various religions. We come from different backgrounds, different demographics that defined who we are personally, but what we have in common is that we are Black women in America. More particularly, we are Black women in the South, and we know that is to have a very unique existence in this world to be a Black woman from the South. This show is all about sitting down and getting to the bottom of what we want to know. It's about what we believe is truth, what I believe is truth. When you watch this show, I want you to feel like you just had a chat with your girlfriend. You chopped it up with somebody who relates to you, who understands your point of view, that sort of thing. And so I just want to thank y'all for coming in and watching and being with us tonight. I got a lot of things I want to talk about. It was a packed weekend. It was a packed week. So thank y'all again for being here. Last week we had on with us attorney Kyra. I'm going to give Kyra a whole new name. Attorney Kyra Roby was on with us last week, just breaking down what it is that we can expect from the legislative session. And look, y'all, the legislative session is underway. We gotta stay keyed in. We gotta understand what's going on at the Capitol and what's not going on at the Capitol. More importantly, we know the first 3 weeks of the legislative session is a lot to do with social events, receptions, that sort of thing. And now is the time we really got to key in. We really got to understand what kind of bills are coming to the floor. Where are the people that you elected? Where do they stand on the issues that matter to you most? Where do they stand on the issues that are going to impact you the most? Over this last week, we saw a lot of stuff happening. We saw our governor call a special session to give $350 million incentives to a company out of China. And look, that's why it's so important we vote, y'all. Because now our governor is saying that he wants to do what his own policy on taxes says he does not want. Look, that's the pure definition of talking out of both sides of your mouth. These folks will do what they want to do when it benefits them. That's why we got to have folks in those seats that represent our best interests and who are going to do what most and best benefits us in our households and our families. So we got to keep an eye on that. I'm very thankful for Robert Johnson making sure to say out loud, look, it looks like, Governor, that you are ignoring the needs of certain parts of this state. You are not sending the incentives. You are not giving the tax breaks. You are not driving the economic development on a certain side of I-55. And we know that what side of I-55 we're talking about. That's where we live, friends. That's where Black folks are. And those are the places that are being neglected by our governor. We got to get behind these people that we elect and send to the Capitol. When they go and have their press conferences, when they pull these things to our attention, we got to key in and we got to understand what's going on so that we can better help them advocate for the things that we need in our communities. And so those are just some of the things that happened at the state capitol last week, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. We'll be bringing back the legislative watch, where we'll just be telling you guys what's happening. We'll be breaking those things down in everyday terminology that we can understand, so that we can then go to our family and friends, those folks who are in our personal spheres of influence, and let them know what they should be aware of, what they should be keyed into. There's a story out of California I want to talk about tonight, though. Barbara Lee, who is a congresswoman from California, was recently not allowed to go in front of a committee meeting on some happenings in Cuba, right? Everybody knows that Congresswoman or Barbara Lee is someone who has been a long and historically, traditionally advocated for the people of Cuba. And the chairwoman of that committee did not give her a waiver to speak. So how it works is if you're not a member of a particular committee in Congress, then you have to ask for permission by way of a waiver so that you can come before that committee and give your comments, give your commentary on whatever is going on. So two Congress folk go before this committee. They ask for waivers, one a white girl, one a black woman. Barbara Lee asks for the waiver. Chairwoman says absolutely not to Congresswoman Barbara Lee, says you will not be getting a waiver today, not to talk about the poor and disenfranchised people of Cuba. You will not be getting to tell everybody how there is two Cubas and that how I, the chairwoman, only care about those who are white looking Cubans, European Cubans. So you won't be able to do that today. Barbara Lee then has her own recording device, and that's the only way that we knew the despicable things that she said to her because of her own recording device. She was able to record what was said to her. She was able to record her commentary or her rebuttal to the chairwoman. Here's why that's important to us in Mississippi today. Had Barbara Lee not had her own recording device, that's the full story would not be able to be told correctly, or we wouldn't have the visuals to the whole story because the chairwoman had asked them to cut the mics on Barbara Lee. Yeah, right here in the state of Mississippi, folks are putting forth bills, making sure that we don't have the opportunity to know and see what's going on in our committee meetings in the House of Representatives. Right now, our House of Representatives committee meetings are not recorded. They're not open, right? So that means when you're in a state like Mississippi with a supermajority, you're going to have that supermajority be able to stack committees, go into these committee sessions, and they are not open to the public. That means the wheeling and the dealing is done behind closed doors, and we, the people, then have to deal with the policy that was made or not made within those committee meetings. That's why it's so important that we keep our eye on what's going on at the legislature, because not only has the House of Representatives not changed their stance on having those meetings be open, like the Senate side of the House, but now they're proposing more legislation that will, in fact, impose even stricter regulations on what's recorded, what's made public, and how much access we have to information that should be very simply put, public information. You know, the saying goes, however Mississippi goes, so goes the nation, but only when it's negative things. So we see this play out on a national platform where Barbara Lee is not able to go before this committee. Her mics were cut off on her. They completely disrespected her as an elected official. It was unprecedented. No one else has ever been denied a waiver to speak in front of a committee. And not only was she not allowed to speak in front of the committee, the chairwoman then gave a long dissertation on why she would not let her speak in front of the committee. And all of that, what she was sharing was simply because I don't like that you are different from me. I don't like that what you're going to tell the people today is in direct conflict with what I've told them. So she completely shut down an opposing viewpoint. Y'all, that's bad news for America. That's definitely bad news for Mississippi. And we got to make sure that they know we want these legislative processes to be wide open, because we want to see you when you do your willing and dealing, and we want to see what type of negotiating happens. We want to understand intimately what's happening at the Capitol, because we elected y'all to be our representation, and that means we want to see how you rep us, right? So that's why it matters. That's why we got to keep an eye on that. I got some more stuff to share on Barbara Lee, but we're going to come back to her because I really want to understand why the governor in California overlooked our girl Barbara Lee. Now, big ups to LaFonza, who was appointed to that Senate seat in California, but there's some questions around why Barbara Lee was overlooked. And then when these type things play out, for people who have been long advocates for our community, have proven track records of standing up, speaking out, and being advocates for the Black community, for Black and brown people, for poor communities, it's no wonder why she would be skipped over, right, for such a prestigious appointment. And especially when the Black Caucus was asking for her appointment. How are you going to try to give us a favor? You say that you want to appoint a Black woman to this position. You're going to do something unprecedented, but then you skip the Black woman that we asked you for. Come on, Governor. What are you doing? Stop playing with us. Yeah, but I want to move us on to this video a friend of mine shared with me today from a rally around the Gaza and Israeli conflict. I'm going to share this clip with y'all, and then I want to come back and I want to open and ask y'all to engage us in the comments. Let's have a real dialogue around what this is going to look like for us in 2024 as we go into this very, very important presidential election cycle. Before I do that, that made me think of something else, right? So earlier this week, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about California elected officials, the Barbara Lee, all that, right? And I said something so crazy like, well, California's so big. They have a lot of, I'm sure they have more positions. And she's like, no, girl, this is a Senate, U.S. Senate position. That's only 2 to a state. And I'm like, I know that. So that triggered a thought for me, though. If someone is keyed into politics as I am, would have a slip, and when you're talking about different positions, it gets convoluted sometimes, it gets confusing sometimes, especially when it's not something we talk about daily. And so I wanted to make sure that we are providing resources so folks can understand who these players are, who their elected officials are. So on our webpage, you can find Mississippi elected officials org chart that I put together just so that you can have that in your cell phones, an easy reference for you to use if you need to understand who's our 2 U.S. senators, we have 4 congressional districts in the state of Mississippi. Who are 4 representatives for those districts? I know we all know Benny Thompson, but he has 3 colleagues, right? For the other 3 districts in Mississippi, all the way down to Hinds County politics. Those are things we need to know. So we put together that document, and I'll be sure to share it out so that you guys can be armed with that information. Now I'm going to cut to this clip from a protest, and I want you guys to listen to the commentary around if you're voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris again in 2024.
So tell me, why aren't you voting for Joe Biden?
I am not voting for Joe Biden because I have finally realized that man is a racist.
I'm not going to vote for someone who funded a genocide. Absolutely not. And I don't think there's any way he can recover from that. His best bet right now is to drop out of the race.
And why not?
Because why would I vote for someone that's calling for the genocide of my people? I'm Palestinian myself, so how am I going to vote for someone that's fine with the people of Gaza being slaughtered?
It seems like he has no regard for human life, especially when it comes to Arabs. And it's really disheartening, the fact that we have to live in the U.S. knowing that this is how our government feels about us. In D.C., there's a bunch of homeless people, and some of the money that could have been given to Israel could have been given to these people so that they could get off the streets and have a successful life. It seems more that he cares about the people overseas rather than he cares about his own constituents.
Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, as I like to call him, he's not listening to us, and it's not right. I can't name one thing Joe Biden has done that was good. Not one.
While he's doing this in Gaza, he's also still trying to do the border walls, and he's also trying to like keep kids in cages. Like he thought that was going to be done with Trump. He's still doing it too.
The United States people have awakened to the fact that we're constantly facing the reality that we have to vote between the lesser of two evils, and I'm tired of making that decision.
He might be the lesser of two evils to you, someone living in America, but to someone in Palestine, they're the exact same, you know?
Biden's unwavering support for Israel's genocide has totally shattered his support among young and progressive voters. But supporters of Palestine aren't just planning on abandoning Biden this November. Many are revolting against the idea that they should have to pick between two morally reprehensible candidates at all.
And I have been a lifelong Democrat. I have supported this man. When we found out he won, I knocked on my neighbor's door and we popped champagne. We celebrated his win. We were so excited. And today, you know what we do today? My neighbor and I, we shed tears. I will not be voting for Joe Biden, but the sad thing is, I will not vote for Trump either. So as a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, I really hope that we start thinking about who we can run on the ticket in 2024, because it honestly cannot be Joe. And if we elect Trump, if we stay home and Trump wins, Palestine will be even worse.
Joe Biden has utterly failed our community. We rallied behind him almost 4 years ago for that election. He convinced us that he was going to be our representative.
Now look, the very first thing I want to say about that clip that we just watched is me, Angela Grayson. This show is my opinion. I am giving you commentary on news. This is not the news, right? Also, I don't represent the thought of any organization but Angela Grayson. These are my thoughts, these are my feelings, and my opinions. And they do not stand to represent any group or any that I'm affiliated with in any way, shape, form. So with that being said, that video to me represents a lot of what a lot of us are feeling, right? And when I say a lot of us, I imagine the type of person who would tune into Truth to Power with Angie are a certain type of folk, right? And I don't believe that any of those feelings or things that were just shared in that clip are so far reaching that we don't understand them. It doesn't resonate with us. I think those things do resonate with us. We got some questions for President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, for me, though, I have some greater questions, though, to the folk who are making the comments. What's your other plan? Because I distinctly remember 4 years ago being in a position where folk across this country were saying you cannot vote for the Black woman Democratic nominee or Democratic hopeful because she would not be able to carry the ticket. So we then chose Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee to go into the presidential election. When that happened, said Black woman Kamala Harris had to then carry the ticket and get Joe Biden elected. Once we got him on the ballot, people said to us, well, we got to vote for the lesser of two evils, right? And this country said that and did that. We voted blue no matter who. Now, 4 years later, some of those same folks are saying to you, we will not be voting for the lesser of two evils because of the conflict in Israel. Now, let me be very clear. I believe the people of Palestine need to be helped. I think that the war against them is wrong. I think that people are injecting religion into a war where it should not be. I think we should be standing with and calling for peace in the Middle East. Ain't this something? We definitely should be doing those things, but as important, not more importantly, and not less importantly, as importantly, we ought to be making sure we get our butts to the polls and make sure that Trump does not become president in the United States of America. Because look, friends, what our friends in Palestine are facing will be even more. And the crisis that we saw in America 4 years ago and 4 years before that will be intensified for Black people. You know, when we start talking about this conversation around if we will or will not be voting for Joe Biden again in November, here's the number one question that I have for people. What's your alternate route? Because there are different candidates on the thing, but we know they will not become the Democratic nominee. If you stay at home on November the 5th and you do not vote because of your disdain for Joe Biden, you are, in fact, voting for Donald Trump. And so you have to sleep with that. And you're going to have to deal with the consequences of having an emboldened racist back in the White House, because he showed us exactly who he was when he was president. How in the world can someone with 91 open indictments still be considered a presidential hopeful? That's where we are in America, and that's the reality. We got to go into this election cycle owning and knowing that this man is a presidential hopeful. He has over 75 million followers who are hell-bent on putting him back in the White House so they can continue the regression of the United States of America. Here's one thing that I've been seeing happen as a trend. People are saying in their opposition to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, well, I can't even point to anything that they've done since they've been in office. Now, let's be very clear. Most of those people who are saying that and are asking, well, what has Joe Biden and Kamala Harris been able to accomplish are willfully ignorant of what they've been able to do. But I'm going to help us out because I know that we are hearing it. I know that if I've been faced with that question a number of times, then so are my viewers. All of us have heard these things, and we need to be armed with good information. We need to be able to quickly and easily rattle off things that Joe Biden's administration, the Biden-Harris administration has been able to accomplish in actually 3 short years, 4 years. I'm sure by the end of this year, we'll see even more things that we can add to that list. This is also going to be a graphic you can find on our website or on our page that I put together today. A just quick Biden-Harris fact sheet on May 25th, 2022. President Biden signed a historic executive order on advancing effective, accountable policing and criminal justice practices to enhance public trust and public safety. That was Executive Order 14074. Go look it up, y'all. It's everywhere. I'm going to tell you something. When I went to find these facts to share tonight, it wasn't hidden. I mean, if you can Google what's the number to Pizza Hut, you can find these facts. It's that easy. This executive order went into effect on the 2nd anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. Through this executive order, the president put federal policing on a path to becoming the gold standard of effectiveness and accountability by requiring the federal law enforcement agencies to ban chokeholds. Restrict no-knock warrants. The no-knock warrant is what those racist police officers were able to use that killed Breonna Taylor, right? She was killed because of a no-knock warrant when someone came into her apartment, which was the wrong house, and shot and killed her. It also gave a mandate to use the use of body-worn cameras, implement stronger use of force policies, including with the duty to intervene and the duty to render medical aid, provide de-escalation training, submit use of force data to the FBI's use of force data collection. It goes on to talk about all the protections that this executive order did. This executive order has resulted in concrete actions to increase law enforcement accountability. Why is that important to you in your home? Because 2023 was the most deadliest year ever for police involved deaths of Black folks. Y'all, when we talk about what has Joe Biden and Kamala Harris been able to do for us, put that as number one on your list. Number two, the Inflation Reduction Act is an historic legislative achievement that lowers the cost for families, that combats climate change, reduces the deficit, and finally makes the largest corporations pay for their fair share. I want to let you know that Trump did the exact opposite when he was a president and gave his buddies and billionaires federal tax cuts. For the first time, Medicare is able to negotiate the price of certain high-cost drugs. A month's supply of insulin for seniors is capped at $35. Yeah, Big Mama can live. That's right. Medicare beneficiaries pay zero out of pocket for recommended adult vaccines, and seniors out-of-pocket expenses at the pharmacies are capped at $2,000 a year. And thanks to Biden and Harris actions, including a historic release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, gas prices are down more than $1.60 from their summer 2022 peak. And number three, more people are working under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Nearly 11 million jobs have been created since the Biden administration took office, including 750,000 manufacturing jobs. That's data. Now, your ex-president, Donald Trump, he wants to send all your jobs across seas. Now, while he calls certain Black and brown countries shitholes, his words, not mine, he did in fact do so much trade and negotiation with places like Russia. So when we talk about what has Joe Biden and Kamala done for us, they've kept America strong, when in fact Donald Trump worked to do the exact opposite. And so many people have said, well, I don't know anything that Trump has done that was really bad. There you go. Number four, and I got to start moving fast because I'm looking at the time. Washington policymakers celebrated Infrastructure Week without ever delivering anything on Infrastructure Week. Well, President Biden got it done. He walked across the aisle to forge a consensus and pass the bipartisan infrastructure law, a once-in-a-generation investment in our nation's infrastructure, a legislation that has directly impacted the city of Jackson. We have talked about, even on this show and across Women for Progress Radio Network, how much money the city of Jackson is going to have to finally get our pipes fixed. Now, how that money has been delegated, we got to talk to the folks at the Capitol about that are here, but Joe Biden did send the money. Number five, President Biden nominated and the Senate confirmed Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first Black woman to serve on the Supreme Court. Listen to this. 66% of President Biden's nominees are women, and 65% are people of color. That's amazing. The Biden administration announced debt relief up to $20,000 for Americans earning less than $125,000 per year. I want you to know that Mississippi's median income is less than $50,000. Most people in the state of Mississippi make about $41,000 or less, which in fact means that most Mississippians were eligible for this debt relief program. More than 40 million borrowers stand to benefit from this action. Let's keep going. Number seven, on his first day in office, President Biden signed a historic executive order directing federal government to use every tool available to advance equity and racial justice. Now, Black folks, when we say, well, what did Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do for me? Well, he made it a little safer for us to just exist. Okay, number eight, on his So that's it. I'm sorry, y'all. I guess I messed up my notes here, but those are just some of the things that Joe Biden did. So I wanted to make sure that when people ask you, because we're going to continue to see that we're seeing the reports across all of our social medias. We're seeing it across the media, especially right-leaning media is definitely trying to drill it into us that Black and brown people are not going to vote for Joe Biden. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're going to do what's right for ourselves. We're going to continue to save this democracy like we do time and time again. And we're going to make sure that we show up to the polls so that Trump is not elected. You know, I said to people all the time, sometimes candidates don't win. The other candidate just loses. And that's what I'm hoping for in November. Here's how I saw it said on social media the other day. In 2024, if you don't vote for Biden, in 2028, Trump will make it so that you cannot vote for anyone. Thank y'all so much for joining me for another episode of Truth to Power with Angie. It's been an amazing time tonight. I'm looking forward to being back here with you Tuesday at 5:30. Y'all like and share the podcast for me. Thank you and peace.